Okay, hi again, and welcome back to the Star Wars Battlefront 2 modding tutorial series. Um, this one, I promise, is going to be very short. I know I said that about the last one, which ended up being about half an hour, but there's not really too much substance to this one that I'm going to be doing today, which is on the topic of reskinning units. Now, I'm not going to do any full reskins where I make a new skin for a unit from scratch or anything like that, but I am going to show you the basics of taking an existing unit skin and modifying that so that you get a new look for a unit. And I'm just going to start with one that's fairly common and almost everybody seems to want to try, which is making a new skin for a Republic clone trooper. That's a really good way to get started because it kind of gets you used to the basics, and then you can apply a lot of the concepts that are involved in that process to other units, even custom units that you're creating on your own. Alright, so to start off, actually what I'm going to do, since we're working with our ABC folder here, which we have not actually edited the Republic side at all in, is I'm going to need to go back to my base BF2 mod tools folder, go to the assets and sides, and just take the Republic folder, copy it, go back to my ABC folder, sides, and paste it here. There we go. Alright, so now we've got the stock Republic side in here. And now we can make changes to it. So what I'll do actually first is just go ahead and get the first munge for the side out of the way right now so that we don't have to bother with that later. So let's go to munge, and I almost forgot an important step, going to common scripts, ABC, and heading over to Clone Wars Conquest. Let's just edit that. Because right now the game doesn't really care too much about the changes that we make to the Republic side. Right now it's going with the content that it has in the game's basic stock data folder, and then in the subdirectory side, and then the stock rep.level, which is the Republic side that comes with the game. So you're not going to see any changes that we make here. We can do all sorts of adding new units or changing skins or adding new weapons, and none of that's going to take effect unless we add the DC line like we did here with the CIS. DC just stands for downloadable content, and it basically tells the game that it needs to go to the add-on folder instead of to the stock side folder. So I'll just add that line in here, DC side rep.level. Okay, so let's head back to data ABC, build, and mod tools visual munge, and we'll keep common checked because we need to munge that script in Notepad++ that we just changed, and then I'll select rep munge, and I am going to, I usually do this, by the way, unless we're just changing the world, which takes only a few seconds to munge, but if it's a longer munge, I always do cut the video so we don't have to watch the whole thing. If you're actually getting munges that take only a few seconds, then you need to install the munge fix, and that link should be in the description of almost every video that I've got. So if you can't find it, just look through some of my other videos and it should be in the description somewhere. You can also find it on GameToast.com. So I'm going to press munge now, and we'll just skip ahead to the end of that process. Okay, so we finished the munge process here. It says we can go around the game. Now, often when you munge a side for the first time, you will get a bunch of these warnings in the PC munge log. And these are totally fine. They're 100% harmless. You can see they're all warnings as well, so there's no errors. They're basically just telling you some things about the geometries for various units. It says will be slow here, and you don't need to worry about that. basically the game engine just wants to try and prevent performance issues, so it's going to let you know, just so you know, there's no specific collision geometry for this model, which means that it basically calculates the collision of a model based on the actual regular mesh for the model instead of having a special collision mesh, which you don't need to know about or worry about at this time. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now, but perhaps will be covered in another video. Anyway, so we now have the Republic side munged, and what we'll do is just go to our sides folder, go to rep, and as you may recall from other videos, mesh files and texture files are all kept in this mesh folder underneath the sides name folder. So I'll open that up here, and you can see we've got all kinds of files that look totally different in here. So we've got, let's point out the main ones, the Targa file format, which is the texture for every model. We've got the mesh file format, which is the actual mesh model. And we've got the option file format, which is essentially just a text file that has a different file extension name to it, and the game reads these, and they have different parameters that change how the model is munged. So the munger will read the option files and go, okay, what else needs to happen here? So for example, you can remove the collision geometry from a model before, like during the munge, if you want. So that's the one that's shown here. But again, something for a different time to discuss. All right, so we've got tons of different models in here. As you can see, we've got the V-wing, we've got the various chunks for when these vehicles explode. Here we get into the infantry units. We've got Aayla Secura there. We've got the ARC Trooper there. I can't remember if that's actually an ARC Trooper model or not. We've got the Clone Commander up here, Anakin. We can keep scrolling through here. There's the LAAT gunship, etc. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then I'll mention as well, you've got this PC folder up here, and these are just some different textures and first-person models. You can see there's a bunch of rep first models and textures here. Some textures for vehicles and that sort of thing. So there we have it, but we're not going to worry about those right now either. Let's make a change to just the basic Clone Trooper skin. Now to do this, you're going to want an image editing software such as Paint.net, GIMP, or Photoshop. You can get the full version of Photoshop, which costs a bit more, or there's the essential version that you can get, and I believe that is free, or it's quite cheap anyway. So here we are. I found the Rep Inf Ep3 Trooper Mesh and dot option, and here's the one I was looking for, which is the Targa file. So I'm going to open that up, and when I double click that, it brings up Photoshop for me. So here we are, and you can see that everything's kind of laid out in this kind of strange fashion where the model seems to have been just unwrapped and plastered all over this. And that is pretty much exactly what happened in the process of creating the model and the texture when Pandemic created the assets. And this is pretty much how it works for any game. You make the model, and then you sort of unwrap the surface of the model, and then you create the texture over top of that unwrapped surface. And so that's what's happened here. You can see the chest plate is here, and it kind of flows into the back plate, which is here, and it's upside down. But when you plaster this in a certain way over the model, then you get a texture that looks normal, like a regular Clone Trooper. So we can start making all kinds of changes to this right away if we wanted to. If I was not picky about about what I wanted to do, I could literally just start painting red over here if I wanted to make this guy a red clone trooper. I could do that. There we go. Perfect. And down here. And now his helmet would be red. And it would look pretty terrible, to be honest. So I'm going to undo all that. There's a number of different techniques for making just basic color changes to a clone trooper. There's quite a few ways of going about it. But one of the most common that I'll show you is using the lasso tool, or whatever the equivalent is that you're using in the program that you are doing this in, and you just make a selection. So in this case, just going to do a rough selection of the blue parts of the armor here. Okay, there we go. And I am using a Wacom pen tablet here to do this, which makes it a little easier. This can be done with a mouse as well, of course, which is just a little more time consuming if you want to get it just right. So I'm very thankful for my tablet. It was definitely a good purchase, and I use it for other things as well. So I can just stick with the helmet if I want, but let's go all out here and grab his shoulder pads as well. And this here, I actually forget which part this is. I think it is part of the knee pad. Oops. Oh, hang on a sec here. I'm going to have to fix this. If I hold Alt, I can do a deselect operation on this. So I'm just going to deselect all this. There we go. And we'll select this part of the chest plate. You can also use the magnetic lasso for this operation, which might work for you. I don't really recommend it because it often catches a bunch of pixels that you don't want to capture in the selection, and that just creates more work for you later because you need to then deselect those pixels manually. Let's just grab this little bit in here and deselect it because that's not blue. There we go. We can do this as well. I'm not going to be too picky about these little buttons and vents in here. Almost finished. There we go. And I'll show you this technique, and if I have time, I'm doing this before work, so if I run out of time, there's no way to extend this because I do have to go somewhere. But anyway, I'll show you another technique as well after I'm through with this one. So this is our selection. I've got all the blue parts selected on the armor. I think, yeah, I don't see any other ones around. So I'm just going to zoom back out. And what we want to do now is, and then again, there are going to be different ways of doing this depending on what program you're in. But I'm going to create a hue saturation layer, and it's masked to my selection, so you can see kind of in this small thumbnail preview that it's just the blue areas that are white in the mask, and so that means that they are going to be affected by this. I'm just going to go to Colorize, and you can already see that I'm in the red zone here, and I've colorized it, so now everything in that area has been colorized red. I can up the saturation if I want it to be bright red. I am going to up it because I want it to be pretty visible, so I can just slide this along and I can make him really, really obnoxiously bright blue or cyan, green. I'm probably going to take this down just a bit, actually. There we go. So, yeah, there's all sorts of colors I can choose from, obviously, or I could completely take away the saturation and make him gray. So, I've got options here. This is where it's up to you to be creative and figure out what you want to do with your clone trooper. You can make a real clone legion, or you could make one of your own. There's a lot of clone legion mods out there, so chances are if you're trying to make one from the game, it's been done. But that shouldn't stop you from being creative. I like this color here, actually. It's kind of a cool color for this guy. So there we go. That's really all there is to it for changing the basic colors without changing the shapes. And the shape technique is one I will show you later on in this video. Again, if there's time. If not, I will definitely add it to the video later. Alright, so yeah, this is good. I like it, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save as a PSD, just because if I want to come back and make changes to the saturation layer later without having to do all the selection again, then I can. And then I'll also save as, go here, and Targa file format. Remember, that's the one we want. So keep the name the same, because that's the name that the mesh file references. So we save, and oh, it already exists. Do you want to replace it? Yes, we do. And as far as resolution goes, you can save it as 32 bits if you want. It doesn't really matter. 32 bits is pretty much only if you have an alpha channel attached. And the alpha channel is used for various modeling settings, and again, that's something I can go over at another time. Here's the important bit. RLE compression must always be disabled. If you enable this, your textures will not work properly. Okay, so always make sure this is unchecked, which it should be by default. There we go. So I've saved it. And I'll go ahead and close this now. So now you can see I've got the PSD file here, and if I double click this, you can see I've got my cool green clone trooper here. Alright, so there we go. Let's head back to Data ABC, Build, Visual Munge, and we just need to munge rep. And I'm actually going to show you the whole munge this time, because it doesn't take long. There we go, you can see the Targa float by there. That was munged this time. There we go, and it says we're all done. So if I scroll back up in the log here, you can see that it munged the Targa file, and then it munged a bunch of these different units, because these are all units that use the Episode 3 Trooper Targa file. So you've got the Marine, the Rifleman, which is basically just the regular Trooper, and these props which have clone troopers in them, and use the Targa file. So that's pretty much it. Let's, oh, I think I have an old munge program open here. Whoops. Yeah, alright. Okay, so open up the Battlefront 2 mod tool here. And we'll head to our example map. As soon as it loads, we should be able to see our guy. There he is. So, kind of hard to see there in the unit selection screen, but now you can see pretty well that he is, in fact, green, which is what we wanted. So, looks pretty good, right? Looks pretty, pretty legit. And you can see the others are green as well. Now keep in mind that the first-person geometry is different from the third-person geometry, so none of the changes you make to a third-person skin are going to take effect in the first-person view. But if we look at our guy in third person, as we are now, you can see that he is in fact green, like we made him earlier. So that's pretty neat, and I will add the second technique of reskinning a clone trooper in a little while here to the same video, and we'll explore that in just a couple seconds here. So now I'm going to go over what the second method of making a new clone skin is. And what I've done here is I've got a white clone skin template that is available for download on GameToast.com, and there will be a download link for that as well as the proper credit for it, because I can't remember who made it. I think there have been a few people who have done a version of it, but anyway, that information will all be in the description for the video. So basically what you can do here, now as you can see we've got this completely blank white skin, and we can do pretty well whatever we want with this. We've got a lot of different options available. So let's zoom in, and we can create our own shapes. We can do whatever color we want. We could do multiple colors if we want. We could start adding features or removing features, like you could erase this center part of the visor if you wanted, so that you've got more of a stormtrooper look to him. Yeah, there's quite a few different options available here. So I am going to just make something up here. I am not really into the whole ultra real clone legions thing where you look up pictures of clone legions from the Star Wars canon and make your own skin from those. I prefer to just make up my own skins. So that is what I'm going to do. You can follow along, or you can make your own based on your own imagination, or you can, if you want to do what I just mentioned and take a skin from an in-universe clone legion and try and make that, then all those are good ideas. So what I'm going to do here to start is I'm still going to use the lasso tool, and you can use whatever the equivalent is in the program that you're using. And let's see, I think what I'm going to do is let's start with the face, because that is by far the coolest and one of the most noticeable parts of the armor to work on. I'm just going to select this region here. And I'm just going to cut right up there. And underneath the visor. And back to where we started. Alright, and there's many different ways that you can go about adding color that looks like it's part of this material. So you've got some of the background features in there, as opposed to just paint bucketing it. Whoops. If I create a new layer and paint bucket it, like, that's going to look pretty bad. So I'm just going to undo that. But here's what I can do. I can take that color, I can paint bucket, and go to my layer and just actually go to the settings here for the layer and make it an overlay, which is okay. It looks a little pink. Maybe soft light, multiply, like there's different options. You can see through now, and it almost looks like this color is painted on. I actually kind of like multiply. Color burn isn't too bad either. Yeah, I think I'll keep that. And then let's add some other shapes in here. I'm going to go to the shoulder pad and just make a kind of a diamond shape. because why not? Yeah, this might end up looking completely terrible. There we go. Okay, this is where I'm starting to wonder about multiply, because you can see here that the multiply, or sorry, the color burn mode, which I've used here, is creating this sort of pink effect in some areas, and I'm not really liking that. So linear burn actually gets rid of that. Maybe I'll stick with that, and we'll see how that looks in some other places, and we can play around with it as needed. Let's go back here and let's add something on the chest. Now keep in mind that for the face, it is just half of the face, and so what is going on there is the texture is mirrored on the model. So basically this gets duplicated, and just as if there was a mirror right here along this part where I'm moving my mouse. If you took a mirror there, then you'd see just the reflection here, so the visor would be something like this. So just keep that in mind, that you can. There is a remapped Clone Trooper model that was released, and that is somewhere. I'm not sure where. I'll see if I can link that in the description as well. That has completely remapped the model so that you can actually have an asymmetrical Clone Trooper skin if you want. Alright, so what else do I want to add here? Let's go to the chest plate and just kind of select part of this. Again, this is just really rough. Not going for the highest quality end product here. Okay, that looks good still, I think. And maybe one more thing. Let's do something on the back. We'll select the edge around this little panel here, but not the actual panel itself. So I'm going to go around that. There we go. And fill that. Alright, so that's a pretty good start. Now the thing here is that there's no wear, the paint hasn't come off or scratched in any way. And there's a few different ways that you can go about doing that. I could take an eraser brush. Whoops, that's very large. Let's bring that down. So I could take an eraser brush and just kind of chip away at it. And that doesn't look too great. I mean, you can play with the brush settings and you might get some better results, but one of the ways I really like doing it is taking the lasso brush and just selecting little pieces, little chunks almost, just really irregular shapes, just kind of out of the edge. Not too many. You don't want it to look completely bashed up, but we do want it to look like this armor has been used, so that's what we're going to do. Just take a little bit off of that corner here. Not too much on the face, because the helmet, I mean, for the most part, is not going to touch the ground or hit too many objects, hopefully. Chest, yeah, looks pretty clean, but maybe I'll add just a little scoring along the center here. And one little spot on the back, I think. There we go. And now we just take an eraser brush. I'm going to take a nice big one and just kind of erase inside these lassoed areas. There we go. So is it perfect? No, it's not, but it'll do for now. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. Actually, you know what? One more thing I want to do. I want to make the hand armor here red. There we go. And I won't really bother with any wearing on that because it's so small. You basically learn which pieces are which by, you can do trial and error, or you can just look at the model in game and really study it closely to learn which parts correspond with which part of the texture. The clone is not too difficult, but there are some other skins that are a little more difficult to work with. So right now this is a JPEG. I'm just going to press save and go to our BF2 mod tools, ABC, sides, public, mesh folder. And I'm just going to overwrite the previous PSD file. We're going to use that. Alright. Because that other one was really easy to make, and I don't feel like I've lost anything by overwriting it. So then we'll save it as a target file, same name. Yep, we want to replace it. And remember, 24 bits per pixel. No RLE compression. Okay, so we've saved that. Alright. And now we can munge. Just Republic, because that's all we've changed. You can see that munging again in all of the units that use it. And there we go. So I'm just going to put my pen away again and switch back to my mouse. And let's try this out in the mod tools. Alright, so I'll open up the example map, Clone Wars Conquest. Wait for that to load, and there we go. So he looks interesting. I'm going to move somewhere a little safer so we can see. Alright, and I'll go into free camera mode here so we can get a good look at him. So you can see there's a little bit of damage there, and yeah, some nicks out of the paint. Not the nicest looking clone trooper, to be honest. It's yeah, not that great, but I'm sure you'll come up with some really nice looking clone troopers of your own, given a little more time and effort than what I put into this one. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. The same concept applies to any skin. You simply have to just edit it in your photo editing software and save it as a target file, and you are good to go from there. Just munge your side and it'll be in game. It's just that simple. There's not really anything else to it that I can think of. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask on GameToast.com. Again, I do recommend using the GameToast.com forums for any questions. You can ask in the comments below here, but a lot of the issues that you guys might run into are difficult for me to easily explain in YouTube comments, so I do recommend using the forums. And if you're having any trouble munging, again, remember that you should be using the Windows Vista 7, 8, 10 Munge Fix tool or pack of files, as that will prevent any munge issues that you might be having if you're using anything newer than Windows XP, which you probably are. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.